Hello, I'm Ron Baker, and welcome to episode 24 of Empowered at Last. I am in a series now of answering questions that you have sent in. It is by far my preferential way of doing this podcast. I love it when it's a conversation. I feel so much more confident that I'm providing you with exactly what you're interested in hearing when you send me your questions. And it gives me a chance to pull from a big body of information and an approach to life that I've been teaching for 22 years at my School of Self-Mastery in New York City. I so want to bring you clues and hints that will allow your life to get better and better and better. I know that that's entirely possible because I live it. I also watch thousands of clients around the world applying this approach to life, creating similar versions of better and better and better for themselves. So please get involved in the conversation. Tell your friends. Either come and watch this YouTube channel, Ron Baker, or listen to the podcast Empowered at Last on iTunes. Also get involved at ronbaker.net. It's not a commercial, it's an encouragement to create a community of people who are learning how to love and value self, who are learning how to approach life in a way that enhances the world around us. That starts with learning to love and value self. Until we have a clear map of self and what is possible, such as the fact that we have 3 distinct levels of consciousness that are possible, most people don't even know what those 3 levels are, much less how to access them and integrate them in their lives. This is a journey of more and more fulfillment. Most people who don't have a clear map because no one knew how to provide it when we were young. My parents certainly did not know how to provide that. I started out with the same need to learn and find out that most other people do. When we don't get that, when we're young, we go through life trapped most of the time in what I call survival consciousness. Trapped in layers and myths of fear, shame, and judgment. Why is that? Because when we're not nurtured at the beginning of our lives in 9 distinct ways, then we end up with gaps in self. And we literally personalize the fact that we don't receive all the things we need. I can't tell you how often I ask clients when they first start working with me, so do you perceive that you got what you needed when you were growing up? And oftentimes they'll go, sure, yeah. I had a roof over my head, I had food on the table, my parents loved me. It's amazing how we will generalize, which I certainly did at the beginning. Oh, sure, I had everything I needed. I didn't want for food and clothing. Well, that is a stunning thing if you were fortunate enough to have those things. But believe me, those are just the basics of physical survival needs. I'm talking about experiential nurturing needs that we seek throughout our lifetimes. If you want to find out more about those, please go to ronbaker.net. Just by signing up for my newsletter, you can get a free ebook that will explain what those 9 nurturing needs are and some really cool information about why they're important. And then there are plenty of ways you can get involved to learn how to provide those in your life now. That is such a vital need if we want to be truly fulfilled. So I say all of that to jump in and prepare for the questions that I have received today. The first one is, how can I feel more passionate about my life? And how do I live my full potential now? Such a great question. And there are many ways to approach any question. I'm going to give a perspective that I hope will help all of you who are listening or watching the podcast this time. How do I feel more passionate about my life is going to depend on whether you are aligned with your most honest, authentic self. If you become aligned with yourself, aware of what you need, what you prefer, what you enjoy, what your interests are, what your talents are, what your needs happen to be, if you become aligned with yourself, you will wake up every day much more passionate for investing in yourself. Now let's start with how many times my clients come to me and go, "Oh, I was told that I shouldn't be so focused on myself, that that's a pretty selfish thing to do." Oh my Lord, we have been passed on so many perspectives of fear and shame from people who were taught those same limiting perspectives when they were young. And I say, I hope you're willing to stretch that particular perspective if it's one that you have held. I will often say to my clients when they're in the room, "Who do you think is the most important person in this room right now?" And they're often taken aback and they're like, "What do you mean?" "I guess it's me because I'm paying for this session." And I say, "Oh no. That is not the wisest perspective that I think you would be wise to consider. I am the most important person in this room. To me. To me. I hope that you are the most important person in this room to you." Now, by saying the most important person, am I remotely implying that I'm more important than you are? No, 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 and no. Not on any level am I more important than you are. You are also not more important than anyone else in your life. But we do need to be the most important person in our own lives. Why in the world is that? Am I suggesting a life that is self-involved and a life that doesn't consider another person? No, not at all. That would not set us up well for having meaningful relationships. What I'm suggesting is I'm here for my soul journey, and the quality of my life fully depends upon me creating a relationship to myself. I can't create a more involved, invested, meaningful relationship with you than the one I'm having with myself. If I've only developed myself to a third grade level in some facet of my life, how am I going to bring a much deeper capacity to my relationship with you? We can't is the deeper answer. So important to understand. Now, I also say to my clients in that same conversation, I assure you, I have learned to become the most important person in this room to me. Now, because I spend so much time filling my well, making sure that my needs, my physical, emotional, mental, sexual, and spiritual needs are nurtured, because I spend so much time doing that, my well is more full than not. How many people do you think benefit from me being fulfilled? How many people do you think benefit Tons and tons and tons is the answer. Quite honestly, when I do it well, and when I have nurtured myself effectively, every person in my life that I encounter benefits, because I'm a happier, more fulfilled me. I'm a more authentic me. I'm a more generous, willing me. So how do you become passionate about your own life? Learn how to get to know yourself on the inside. I have a course that I'm about to launch this summer that is all about creating a meaningful, kick-ass vision for your life. This is going to teach you how to get in touch with yourself more fully, how to get in touch with what moves you, what excites you, what you will be more authentically passionate about. This awareness of self, and then full permission to invest in your most authentic life, is how you become passionate about yourself. The second part of your question: how do I live my full potential now? Ooh, it says such a lot that we ask the question in this way. How do I live my full potential now? I hope that I never reach my full potential. What do I mean? I work on myself all the time. I claim more of myself almost every day. I learn and I grow and I deepen constantly. I assure you, I know how, I teach others how, and that is how I live my life. I started out in a very small potential and comfort zone, but inside I believed that much more was possible. I thought maybe twice as much, 3 times as much was possible. I now live in a scope of what is possible in our own potential that we all share. So much more of my potential than I even imagined might be possible. And I can't wait to be in much, much, much more of my potential. I believe it's pretty infinite. I promise you, if I had time to share tons of stories, which I will do over time, particularly if we have an opportunity to do a deep dive and to do work together where there's a context and an understanding for those deeper levels of potential, I will be happy to share at every level. If I had the ability to reach my full potential now, I would be frozen, and at the end of my growth, my discovery, my deepening, and believe me, I never want that to be the deal. I have good news. I now understand and trust that that doesn't ever need to be the deal. There is so dang much potential that we all hold that we've never been taught how to tap. Again, I come back to where I started. Most of us have been trapped in survival consciousness, ruled by initial impressions of fear, shame, and judgment. That is huge to realize. So often, when this is the case, we will want to swing the pendulum and live our full potential now as some sort of idealism that we imagine is possible. I encourage you, first of all, again, thank you for asking the question, but I encourage you to start loving yourself right where you are. Get to know the potential of your options now. I'm going to use the metaphor of school, which I do so often. If I'm in first grade with a particular facet of myself now, I need to get to know that and to love that and to value that and to enhance my life with my first grade potential, and then expand into more and more levels of potential that are perfect, natural next steps in my life. I ask you a simple question. Were you more lovable in 5th grade than you were in 1st grade? Or were you just as lovable in 1st grade, focused on the things that were perfect for you in 1st grade, and then focused perfectly on the things you needed to be focused on in 5th grade, and 10th, and 15th, and 100th grade? Infinite potential. This is the approach that I suggest you consider when you become more passionate about your life and learn to live into the opportunity of today. How do you do it? What would make me happy? What would make me fulfilled? What would be of genuine interest to me? What do I need to develop? What would enhance my life? What area do I need to look at that hasn't really been creating a great return? Any of those areas that you explore and live into are going to give you a way to claim more of your potential for setting yourself up better and better and better. That is a much healthier, peaceful, inspired way to live our lives. I know what a huge difference it's made for me, and I encourage you to approach your life that way. And so thank you for this question. It gave us a ton of perspectives to explore. And so I close by encouraging you to listen to more podcasts, to make comments below. All of those things make a big difference, not in validating me, but in encouraging other people to also explore the particular podcast episodes that you find helpful. When you take the time to acknowledge something, you open the opportunity to encourage and inspire. I thank you for the ways that you show up, for the ways you get involved at ronbaker.net and at Empowered at Last. Please continue to let me hear from you. Let me hear what you want me to cover. Share with me your inspiring stories. I'm also thrilled to share some of your breakthroughs on the show, not just your challenges and questions. Both are vital. Please take the time to share your breakthroughs as well. Thank you. I'm sending lots of love your way, and I will see you soon.